Good morning on what is a cool, grey and cloudy day. It is Tuesday the 1st of August. I've got a nice hot cup of tea and a parcel to continue unboxing, or actually finish unboxing. So what I have got in here is that. I've got two books in here. I've already done an unboxing of the Earth Goddesses book for the Cults of RuneQuest series from Chaosium. I'm going to follow this up with the Lightbringers source book for Cults of RuneQuest. So let's take the plastic off this. Challenge your foes, fulfill your fate. Cults of RuneQuest, the Lightbringers, is the player's guide to the gods of the storm. This book covers the mythology of the Lightbringer pantheon of gods and provides mechanics for each of their cults to create your RuneQuest adventure. Within these pages are 19 cults, including Orlanth, the storm god, Chalana Arroy, the goddess of compassion, Lambri, the god of thieves, Isaris, the god of communication, Humat, the god of death and war, and many more. Rules to use these cults to create brand new RuneQuest adventures and details of their skills, passions, spirit magic, and rune magic these cults offer. Details of the unique organization, history, and nature of each cult. New cult-specific skills and rune magic spells. Embody the power of your god with rules for how your adventure can grow into the god talk of rune priestesses or even a mighty rune lord. The history of the Lightbringer pantheon, mythology filled with combat, heroism, reckless deeds, and honor in the face of impossible odds. This supplement can be used with the RuneQuest core rules or combined with the other books in the Cults of RuneQuest line to build a RuneQuest adventure belonging to multiple cults. So, what you've got on the front is essentially Orlanth in all his mighty glory. Incredibly, it's an incredibly imposing kind of depiction, and typically Orlanth is depicted like this, like it's I am Orlanth, and it's just there. Whereas this is there's a definite sense of serenity to this, where there is none to this, and that's fantastic. That really kind of captures sort of like the differences in character between the two deities on the cover, despite them being husband and wife, because they're husband and wife. So we open up. Here we go. We've got credits and contents page, and then introduction to what's in this book. Explaining what it is. So subject matter, use for the players and game masters, but it's for both. Organisation, themes, names, mythos, and art. Before we get into the opening mythology attached to the Lightbringers and the gods of the storm, and we have the songs of the storm voice with all of these gods depicted in one single page. It is just a tumult of deities there, and then we have the overarching sort of like myths of the Lightbringers. So we've got the gods of the Lightbringers. So where did the world come from? Where did I come from? Why do we die? And so on. And then the relationships. Who are the other gods presented there, with a map there of the spread of their worship. And then an overview of who the gods of the storm are. None of the runic associations are listed here, so this is just an overview rather than sort of like the complete sort of listing as you've got in the Prosopedia, which had the runic associations. But the runic associations are there in the book. I'll show them to you in a moment. And then we have a discussion of the 7 Lightbringers. Those were the 7 gods that went on the Lightbringers quest. Before we have the Lightbringer deities labelled. So we have that page there, essentially where all of the gods that appeared on that page are named so you can identify them, and then the genealogy of the Lightbringers, the storm gods, family of gods. And of course we begin with the head of the pantheon, Orlanth, and as you can see he has his associated runes at the top underneath his name. So you know, so you've got movement, air, and mastery. I believe, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong. So we have the mythos and history of Orlanth. Quite lengthy. Anyway, basically, and all out again in a majestic kind of pose. And then we have to get into sort of essentially things like nature of the cult, its organisation, and its subcults, lay membership, initiate membership, and so on. So essentially, the sort of positions, sort of general positions you can hold in the cult, and then subcults including Orlanth Rex, which is cult for leaders amongst Sartar and elsewhere. We have subservient cults and other subcults associated, also listed. And then, and this includes Vinga, who is, or it can either be seen, is either the female version of Orlanth, or his daughter, depending upon interpretation and myth. With a listing of well-known Orlanthian heroes, and then a list of associated cults who will be friendly and will trade, can teach certain rune spells, and then a discussion of Orlanth in other lands, and more notes. Before we move on to Chalana Arroy, the goddess of compassion, primarily known as as healers and pacifists. Okay. And then we leap on to Urmal, the trickster, who brings disorder everywhere he goes, but you know, with often you know, sometimes with a purpose. And it's interesting to note, you know, sort of like how he's an important figure in, of course, in certainly Sartarite mythology, or Orlanthian connected mythology, but at the same time, you know, is often blamed for things that are outside of his control, as to things that are inside his control. So you know, if things go wrong, the first person you may look at is your local member of the Urmal cult. Anyway, so Isri's god of communication, primarily a trading god, but does other things as well, because trading can also mean negotiation and diplomacy and so on. Lankormai, the knowing god, details there on writing documents, because if you, basically they all record their knowledge. God of the knowledge is all about knowing the knowledge. And then Bantar, the plough god. Darkophile, judge of the dead. And the other thing, another thing about this book is essentially is that it's really sort of compartmentalizing these gods, or presenting them in sort of in separate sections, so that they are essentially their write-ups and descriptions are accessible and easy to read and engage in. So I'm just going to see there's another page there. Yes, there is. I'm basically just trying to get the pages separated so that there might be some art that I can show you. Essentially, what we've got here: the ancestral summons and ancestral random spirit table. Before we get on to Found Child, the Hunter. And also, these books essentially supplement and enhance the descriptions of the gods and goddesses and their associated cults in the core rulebook, whilst giving your players a lot more options in terms of essentially the gods they can worship and the cults they can belong to. And the NPCs that the GM can create. So then we have Gargaroth, or Gargath, the Wild Hunter. And some of these sections are quite small. So Gargath, the Wild Hunter, is just 3 pages long. Before we move on to Hela, the Rain God. And it's sort of, this kind of reflects how important or how widespread their worship is in the setting of Glorantha. So Orlanth and Analda have in the Earth Goddesses book essentially have lengthy sections representing how widespread their worship is and how important their role is in everyday life, and their associated pantheons, and some of the lesser gods have sort of shorter sections. And then we have Humac, god of death and war, which is a very common cult, certainly for player characters. Whereas Hela sort of gets a couple of pages, Humac is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pages, So, but it's also reflecting sort of like the sort of like his popularity. In some sense, also his popularity is kind of as a player character choice or player choice. So anyway, we have Lambril, the god of thieves, who must be a very common cult, because in general thieves are distrusted. And so, not really trusted across Sartar, Prax, and it tends to, the other thing, sort of like thieves tend to be sort of like more of a kind of I suppose an urban phenomenon, as it were. So it might be more common in cities and towns than out in the out in the countryside. So next we have Mustakos, the god of movement. and he is only given 4 pages before we go on to Odelia, the Sky God. And Stormball, the Chaos Killer. Don't slip forward that far. Valind, God of Winter. So very seasonal. Baha, the Butcher. And here we have fantastic artwork. So basically, just sort of like even the snow trolls worshipping the God of Winter. Ig, the Roaring God. And then at last, basically the last entry is Yinkin, the Cat God, which is actually one of my favourites. I try not to play Yinkini too often, but I do enjoy playing Yinkini. So yeah, that is Cults of RuneQuest Lightbringers from Chaosium for use with RuneQuest role-playing in Glorantha. This is it's not a particularly long book, but it's a fantastic source book for player character and NPC options to create interesting player characters and NPCs that you can encounter and role-play and so on, as well as a good sort of source book which so you can learn more about the world of Glorantha, the cult your character belongs to, and the game master can sort of like draw from, and so help her create interesting adventures associated with the different cults. So yeah, Cults of RuneQuest, the Lightbringers, and that's due out. That's just out from Chaosium. So I hope you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, then please do click on the like button down below, not the light button. And if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here in the Nook with a box which I will unbox and chat about a book or game, or in this case a supplement for RuneQuest role-playing in Glorantha, for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing in the Nook. I will be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.